every place has something that they do extraordinarily well, and I don't really think any one of them can really say that they're the best overall cheesesteak.
It was invented here. We're the originator of the cheesesteak.
What makes them so special?
Say the bread. The bread.
This is going to be our home tonight here in Philadelphia. Felt like I was in Gotham City a little bit, and just absolute lawlessness on the streets. So we have made it. We're finally back on the road after being at home for a few weeks. Last night I hung out with my girlfriend and got some dinner, said goodbye. And this morning we hit the road north. I don't even know exactly really where I am. I'm like 20 minutes north of Baltimore in this Home Depot parking lot next to the shed. And I'm finally heading out to explore the last area, the final frontier on the Ryan Toomey van life adventure. The only place left in the country that I haven't traveled to, and that is New England and the entirety of the northeastern section of the United States. So going on a 10 to 15 day road trip up there, checking out a bunch of cool places. It should be peak fall colors, so really excited about that. But with that being said, we are driving north and winter is coming. So if you've been following along, you know that my diesel heater, the thing that I use, that's actually down here in my van, that keeps me nice and warm in the winter time, broke and completely fell apart on my road trip up to Alaska. And the fuel line got wrapped around my wheel, completely ripped out, basically destroyed the entire thing. So I've got some new spare parts here to fix that, which is why I'm in a Home Depot parking lot, because I left all my tools in my house in San Diego, so I don't have any. I drove all the way up to the Arctic Circle and then back down to California, across the country to Maryland, and up to here with my fuel pump dangling like that, so hopefully it still works. And even though I did order all of the parts, I forgot to order one, which is the fuel filter. So gonna head into Home Depot, see if I can find the fuel filter, and then tonight we are driving up to Philadelphia to stealth camp on the streets. So this is the third time that I'm gonna be replacing the fuel filter in my diesel heater. For the first time that I've had to replace all the lines and everything like that. I have had issues with fuel filters in the past, the ones that you can buy on Amazon that are specifically meant for diesel heaters, which I'll go show you outside. I installed this auxiliary diesel tank for the diesel fuel for the diesel heaters to keep it out of the car, just kind of in this corner of my engine bay. And this is the tubing that is supposed to be connected to my diesel heater, but as you can see, the old fuel filter, I've had this happen twice, where they've just exploded and diesel has leaked all over into my engine bay. Luckily, hasn't caused any issues, at least that I know of. I've tried to clean it out every time it's happened, but I'm hoping this upgraded filter will be able to withstand. I'm assuming it's the heat that makes this explode, and we should have a good diesel heater all winter, so let's get to fixing. So basically all I'm doing is I attached a new gasket, some new clamps, and then this is the hose that the fuel will go through, down through my engine bay to my diesel heater. And then once I get these tightened down, I'm gonna splice this somewhere, attach in the fuel filter, and then we just got a few things that I gotta install under the van next to the diesel heater, and we should be good to go. All right, so there we go. This is the finished product. Got it attached here. We got our fuel filter in and attached on both ends at a downward angle below our fuel tank. And then the fuel line, I fished through the engine down there, and I actually put it through pre-existing wiring straps. And there's so much mud on here from the Alaskan highway. This is the old mount. This is the new mount. There we go. Everything is attached and ready to go. Now we can get this mounted, and then the last thing we gotta do is install an air filter, and we should theoretically have a good working diesel heater. I genuinely don't know how I got this in there before. It feels like it doesn't fit. I got it. Finally, it took me like 25 minutes of messing around with this thing. There we go. Pump installed. Oh, finally. Final thing is, which should be pretty easy, new air filter, because mine is supposed to be installed right here on the end of this piece, but it got ripped off and caked up with mud, so. There we go. Tuck that up in there, and we finally have a working diesel heater. Hopefully. Not gonna test it today because it's still pretty warm and I don't feel like dealing with the mishap if I mess something up and having diesel leak everywhere. So that'll be a problem for another day, but let's hit the road, get to Philly because we're already running late. But before we get into the rest of the video, I want to take a second to thank this video's sponsor, and that is Scentbird, a fragrance subscription service that allows you to try out new designer fragrances each month for only $17. And the best part is you get more than one, which is nice because I live in a van and people have a lot of opinions about people living in vans, that they don't smell good, so I always gotta come out smelling on top. Currently, I have 3 fragrances, each of which for a different scenario. So this first one here, and they all come in these nice little carrying cases, each with their own colors so you can differentiate them. And on the insides, if you open them up, there is a ton of perfume in these little vials. And this first one is Dime #1 cologne. And these little carrying cases are super to use. You just kind of twist the top over, spray it out, and you're good to go. So this first one I can kind of wear everywhere. It's not too overwhelming. It's very light and airy. And this second one, which is a scent called North Atlantic Right Whale by Sanctuary. And this one is a little bit more energetic and vibrant, and it's great for date nights or anything like that. And then the final one, which is my favorite, is Mind Games by Cassia. And this one is a little bit more sophisticated with notes of licorice and musk, so I save this one for special occasions when I'm dressing up a little bit nicer and I want to impress people. So overall, I have got a scent for every occasion. They have over 600 designer brands that you can choose from, like Gucci, Prada, or Versace. And the best part is they're super portable. You can just pop them in your pocket and you're good to go for the entire day. So make sure to click the link below to visit Scentbird's website and use my code TOOMEE55 for 55% off your first month, which is only about $8. Thank you again to Scentbird for sponsoring this video, and I'll send you guys back. So we have made it into the city, and one of the things that I'm really excited to try now that I'm here in the city is a Philly cheesesteak, because I think the last time I had an authentic Philly cheesesteak in Philly was like 10-15 years ago when I was a kid. And I feel like you can't come visit Philly without trying a cheesesteak, and you also can't talk about Philly cheesesteaks without talking about Geno's Steakhouse and Pat's, the king of steaks and supposedly the original Philly cheesesteak. And funny thing is, they're actually right next to each other. You've got Pat's right over here on this side of the street and Geno's on this side of the street. And by no means am I trying to say that these are the best cheesesteaks that you can get in Philly. I actually did a lot of research and found that it's a very polarizing topic to figure out which is the best cheesesteak in Philly. And for locals, neither of these places are the best cheesesteak, and they're kind of touristy, but they are the most popular. So we're gonna get one from each of them, try them, and then I actually did an Instagram poll as well where I asked people what the best cheesesteak is from locals. And after we try these two, we're gonna go to that place, try that cheesesteak, and see which one's the best, hopefully. We got our Geno's cheesesteak, we got our Pat's cheesesteak. I asked them both what they think makes a Philly cheesesteak special. What makes them so special?
Say the bread.
Geno's said it's the bread. Pat's said that it's just because they're the originator of the cheesesteak and it's just because it's from Philly.
It was invented here. We're the originator of the cheesesteak.
Okay.
It all started here.
So no real insights on that. I'm trying to gather as much intel as I can, because when we go stealth camping tonight somewhere on the street, I'm going to try to make my own version of a Philly cheesesteak. And from my understanding, what I thought made a Philly cheesesteak different than other cheesesteaks is the fact that they use cheese whiz. So it's not like American cheese or provolone, it's like easy cheese kind of stuff out of a bottle. So I thought that's what made them different, but maybe I was wrong. Anyways, let's give them a try. I got both the same Philly cheesesteak with onions. Up first is Pat's, which is supposedly the original Philly cheesesteak and the inventor of it. So, cheers. Got a lot of bread in that first bite. Very good steak. And honestly, I do like the cheese whiz because it like spreads out evenly throughout the entire cheesesteak as opposed to like American cheese that would just be on top or something. So, very good. Now, we can move on to Geno's, so cheers. Geno says bread is what makes Philly cheesesteak, so we'll see. I'm gonna be honest, it is pretty hard to differentiate between the taste on the two. They taste very identical. This Geno's cheesesteak does have, in my opinion, way better bread. But overall, the insides of both cheesesteaks, very similar taste. If you fed both of them to me in a blind taste test, I don't think I could tell you the difference other than the bread on this one. If you're coming to Philly, and you're going to either Geno's or Pat's, I'm gonna be honest, I gotta give this one to Geno's just because of the bread. Overall, the sandwich was a lot better. But let's head over to our final cheesesteak spot. And this is it, Angelo's Pizzeria. This is the place that got recommended more than anywhere else in my Instagram poll. We're here now, and we're gonna try it. Last cheesesteak secured. There's really nowhere to sit and eat them out there. So we take it back to the van, eat this last one, and it's very interesting that every place that we've gone to that's given me an opinion on what makes a Philly cheesesteak so special have all said the bread.
The bread, like
Bread?
our bread makes.
That's what we got, yeah.
Sandwich.
So if you had to pick one thing, it'd be the bread?
100%.
Okay. I would have thought it would have been the cheese or the steak or something else, but it's very interesting that it was the bread. Alrighty. So I've got high hopes for this one. Let's see how good you guys are at choosing best cheesesteak in Philly. Ooh, first difference. Seeded bun. Step up from the last two places. This bread looks way better than both the other two places, which apparently is what makes these cheesesteaks so special, so very excited. They also used a different kind of cheese. So the cheese in this one is called Cooper Sharp cheese, which is another kind of Philly staple. So it's either Whiz or it's Cooper Sharp cheese that you're gonna find in these Philly cheesesteaks. So definitely the most aesthetic of the three that I've had so far. Cheers. That bread is fantastic. By far, the best bread out of all three of the sandwiches. And I think she said they make it in-house. I think this might be my favorite one so far. I will say, I do think I like the cheese whiz better though. I think overall, this cheesesteak was better than the first two I had, bread-wise, but cheese and steak-wise, I think Gino's and Pat's has this beat. So it's kind of hard to pick a favorite because like each one has their own thing that they shine in, which I guess is why it's such a debate here in Philly for which one's the best cheesesteak. So I think I've gathered enough intel to be able to cook one tonight in the back of the van. But first, before we do that, now that I am packed full of cheese, steak, and bread, I'm gonna drive into Center City to the Reading Terminal Market to get all of the local Philly ingredients for my Philly cheesesteak, and also check out some more of the city before I park up on the side of the road here somewhere and stealth camp for the night. 2-hour parking, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., 3-hour parking, Monday through Saturday. I had to tuck the mirrors in because very tight parking out here on the street. So this place that we're heading to, the Reading Terminal Market, is a place that I read about online and it's supposed to be pretty cool. It's America's largest public market. So I'm hoping I can get all the ingredients I need for my Philly cheesesteak there. But if not, we'll just have to stop somewhere else and grab whatever else we can't get here. This is it. Hopefully we can find everything we need. This place is pretty cool. Got a bunch of little meat markets and restaurants and places you can go to. First thing I'm looking for is bread though, because apparently that's the most important part of cheesesteak, so I want to make sure we get some good bread. All right, I've been walking around for like 20 minutes looking for anywhere that sells bread, and we finally found somewhere. Hopefully they have some sort of hoagie roll. Thank you. Appreciate it. Bread acquired. And next I gotta get some cheese, and we do have a lot of selection here, but sadly no cheese whiz, so I think my cheesesteak is going to be made with the Cooper Sharp cheese, which is what Angelo's made their cheesesteaks with. I'm fine, thank you very much. Have a good one. All right, so cheese and bread acquired. Now all we need is steak, and then I need to grab an onion. All right, so I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit overstimulating being in there. So much stuff going on, so many options, but we've got everything we need to make a cheesesteak. I got a few more ingredients that I'm gonna add to my cheesesteak that I kind of like, but for now, we gotta head back to the van and then drive around the city looking for a place to stealth camp tonight. Whew. Long day. So I haven't really planned out exactly where I'm gonna be stealth camping tonight, but from driving around the city all day, I've kind of realized that there is a ton of street parking everywhere, so I might just drive around down random Philly city streets and find somewhere where I can stay for the night. I will say I've never been to another city that has as narrow streets as Philadelphia does. I hate driving around in cities, it's so stressful, especially with a van like this in these older cities that aren't really meant for bigger vehicles. So I'm kind of just driving around aimlessly. I don't really have an exact destination. I'm just driving until I see somewhere that looks like I could probably stay there for the night. All right, so I've been driving around for like 30, 45 minutes looking for a place. I haven't found anywhere that looks perfect, but this spot right here honestly looks good enough. Right next to some apartments, just kind of off to the side of the street here, so I think this is where we're gonna camp tonight. No sign saying there's any kind of regulations for whether I can stay here overnight, so I feel like this place is as good as any. So I don't think this spot is like the most perfect spot if you were looking for somewhere to stealth camp in a city, but I definitely drove by some worse options. So there's some nice apartments off on that side. This looks like it's some sort of vacant lot. More apartments over there, and then nice just looking apartments, and seems like it's generally a pretty quiet street. Not a lot of restaurants or foot traffic, so this is going to be our home tonight here in Philadelphia. Now that we found a place to camp for the night, we can get started cooking that Philly cheesesteak. And finding spots like this kind of in the city like I did in Baltimore, or I did here tonight in Philly, or I'm going to do in many other cities as I travel up the East Coast. It's typically pretty easy to find a spot to camp. It's just about finding the right spot, and typically I like to get there before nighttime just so I can get a lay of the land, see where I'm at, and at least feel somewhat good about where I'm camping. But this spot here on the street isn't too bad. It looks like the car in front of me left. We're not really right in front of someone's house because this is an empty lot, but we are kind of close, so definitely won't be cooking with the doors open tonight, or doing anything with the doors open, or any of my windows. Make sure those are sealed, especially since the sun is setting. But I will say that although winter hasn't fully hit yet, it is pretty nice to have a decent temperature in the back of the van constantly throughout the day and night, and not having to be scorching hot while I'm back here cooking. And hopefully once it gets super cold, when winter really hits, that diesel heat will be working again. I think after I make this Philly cheesesteak, I might be all Philly cheesesteaked out for the entire year. This will be my 4th in one day, but mine is gonna be a little bit different than the ones I got, because when I ordered the Philly cheesesteaks, I wanted something that the restaurants recommended, which for all 3 of the restaurants was just steak, cheese, onions, and bread. But typically, I like lettuce, tomatoes, onion, ketchup, and mayonnaise on mine, so that's what we're gonna add. From what I've read online, Cooper Sharp is a Philadelphia-based cheese that essentially is just an upgraded version of Kraft Singles, AKA American cheese. But first things first, let's prep some ingredients. First time using my new fancy knife to cook something in the van. Whoa. This thing is so beautiful. And there we go. We got our trifecta of veggies all cut up. Now it's time to move on to the meat. And I'm not really following any kind of recipe here. It seemed pretty simple and straightforward for how they made all their cheesesteaks. It was just steak mixed with cheese and onions in a roll. So I'm just gonna do my best to get this steak sliced nice and thin. I hope that this cheesesteak comes out somewhat respectable. I'm gonna have to cut this super duper thin, because I think that's what really makes a cheesesteak so good, is how thin the meat is cut. There we go. Took a lot longer than I thought it would. Also remembered that I have my apron, saved my pants, so I put that on so I don't keep wiping my hands on my pants. But steak is cut up all nice and thin, and I think that's it for what we got to do for prep. So let's get to cooking. Should wash the hands. So while I was at the market, I got these steak rolls, since apparently what makes a cheesesteak from Philadelphia is the roll. So I got a Philadelphia cheesesteak style roll that we're gonna use, but we're gonna upgrade it a little bit because I feel like it'd be pretty good. But this should fit in there, yeah. So what I'm gonna do to upgrade this is essentially take it, cut it right down the middle, like so. Pry that open, and then in the pan here, I'm gonna start getting some butter and garlic heated up, and we're gonna turn this roll into basically a garlic bread roll. Get that melting, as well as some garlic. Beautiful. Now that that is nice and melted, go ahead and throw this bread in there and get her nice and toasted up. And also, I've gotten so many recommendations for places to go, things to do, things to eat on my trip up north from you guys. I posted a photo asking a bunch of places where I should stop and things I should do in New England, and you guys sent me so many different options. I've been sifting through them and trying to figure out what I want to do and where I want to go. So thank you to anyone who responded on my YouTube post. I'm very excited to go check out all the spots you guys have recommended, because as I said, New England is the last place in the country that I haven't visited. So ooh. Oh, that smells so good. There we go, bread done. Now it's time move on to the steak. Get a little bit of oil in the pan, let that get hot. And for some reason, most of the videos that I've seen are people that have been cooking cheesesteaks haven't used any seasoning on the steak, which I don't really understand. I feel like the seasoning can only really improve the flavor. So for my cheesesteak, I will be using some garlic powder, onion powder, and some salt. But I think this pan is hot. Go ahead and throw them in there. I'm gonna hit them with the seasoning. I think that steak is cooked just enough. Over here, grab some of my cheese. And I like a lot of cheese. So I'm going to put a lot on here. So don't judge me. Turn the heat down a little bit. There we go. I'm also going to take actually a couple slices of cheese and line the toast with it. Make sure every square inch of this cheesesteak has cheese on it. That looks so good. There we go. I think that's good on the steak. I really don't know why I don't make these more. They're actually super, super simple to make. Not a lot of ingredients. Pretty much everything that I love in a sandwich. Cheese, bread. But I'm gonna try to layer this in there. Get some meat, some tomatoes, some lettuce, and more meat. And there we go. That is our wonderful looking cheesesteak. It looks kind of a mess right now, but I think I may have overpacked it. Ooh, this looks so good. And I think this is kind of the reason why it's such a heated debate as to where the best Philly cheesesteak in Philly is, because it's so much up to personal preference, what you like in your cheesesteak, what you don't like. And I think at the end of the day, every place has something that they do extraordinarily well, and I don't really think any one of them can really say that they're the best overall cheesesteak. But I will say, mine does look pretty good. Cheers. Oh, I think I actually I've made a mistake saying I like the Cheese Whiz better than the Cooper Sharp, because I think the problem for me with the one from Angelo's wasn't that the cheese wasn't better, it was that it wasn't enough, and I probably should have gotten extra cheese, which I think would have made it perfect, but I did forget to add some ketchup and mayonnaise, and this is just a personal preference. I know a lot of people don't like ketchup and mayonnaise on their cheesesteaks, but I do, so sue me. There we go. Gorgeous. That is a spectacular cheesesteak. And it feels weird being back in the van again full time after being home for so long. Feels like I haven't been on the road in forever. I am excited to be back. I think for the rest of the night here tonight, it is getting kind of late, 7:30. Finish up this cheesesteak, hang out, and try to plan the rest of my route up north. So I will catch you guys in the morning. Good morning. Last night was definitely not the best night's sleep I've ever gotten. It felt like I was in Gotham City a little bit. Just absolute lawlessness on the streets with people riding around on dirt bikes and four-wheelers and those little three-wheel cars blasting music. At one point I even pulled down my back window to look out, and I saw a bunch of people in a Ford Excursion hanging out the windows driving through this intersection at about 40 miles an hour. So a little bit worried I was gonna get hit. Kind of died down around 12:30-ish, but it's time to get out of Philly. It is another beautiful day out here though. Nice and cool, not too hot, so I got to sleep in today. I was planning on going up to New York today and hanging out in the city, but we slept in a little bit, and it's supposed to rain all day tomorrow, so I think I might drive a little bit more west around and then kind of swing back and hit New York on my way back, but we'll see. That's the beautiful thing about living in the van. I can change my plans on a whim, but I do have a little bit of that cheesy steak left over from last night. So I'm just gonna throw that in my eggs. But anyways, yet another night of successful stealth camping on the East Coast. I'm excited to head up north and see what else we can find in New England. I think that's it for this video. I'm gonna eat my last little bit of cheesesteak and then head out of Philly. So as always, I truly appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't already, think about clicking that subscribe button. It really does help out the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.